Welcome to the Ashby Room. Today, I'm joined by Julene as we speak with Kim Sottero. Kim is the VP of Business Operations at Presage, a startup focused on translational oncology and testing drug effectiveness. In this episode, we discuss Kim's journeys traveling to over 80 countries, how her network helped kickstart her career in biotech, how Kim is exploring Berkeley's resources such as the Career Management Group and the Student Entrepreneurship Program, and also Kim's role as our newly elected class president. Without further ado, please enjoy this pleasant conversation with Kim Sottero.
Can you?
So, Madam President,
okay.
How long has it been now since you've become our class president?
It's been about 2 blocks, so maybe 2 months.
2 months. And
Wow.
I mean, we are your servants, your VPs of careers, me and Julene. There's a lot around that, but maybe you could talk about the experience so far, what the process of the election looked like, and more than a popularity contest, what it means to be leadership in this program.
Yeah, well, there's 2 types of positions. There's appointed positions like our VP admissions, careers, academics, and those people, like you both, are specifically chosen for your skill sets and for your abilities to help the cohort in those areas, versus elected positions are positions that the class votes on. It happened to be that our other positions like sustainability and DEIJB went uncontested, which was really nice for those candidates. The president one was contested, but that meant an opportunity to practice putting together a flyer and giving a speech in front of the cohort. One of the questions that came up was like, why do we even need a president? I don't think we do, but it is somebody who is a connector and someone who represents the interests of the VPs and the cohort. So for that, I really like it so far. I mean, it's only been 2 months, but I think people bring me in on what's happening so that I can help or support or laugh along.
I met someone during the admissions process who was the president of their class as well. And I was like, oh, there's a president of the class. Yeah, like kind of surprised by that. But the way that they described it is like they're kind of like the advocate for the class. Like they're like the go-to for like everything, like logistics, academics, like you name it. And so it is really nice, I think, for us to have kind of like that centralized person to like flow a lot of that stuff through. It really like enhances the experience.
Go ahead.
I think I'm also the one who can amplify, whether it's a catering request for Coke Zero or...
Oh, you did that?
The inferior Coke.
You made that?
The better Coke. They were all gone today, right?
Oh, wow. Maybe somebody threw them out.
No, I saw so many people drinking them.
Really?
It was great. Yeah. I think it's interesting too, if we think about our DLP, the Defining Leadership Principles, right? Students always, question the status quo, beyond yourself, and... Because a lot of students always question status quo, beyond yourself.
Confidence
and...
with that.
Okay. We talked about the Defining Leadership Principles, question the status quo, beyond yourself, students always, confidence without attitude. What was interesting is I did take a pulse of our leaders to say, where do we think we are? And overwhelmingly, I think people voted students always. We're all here to learn, grow. But I also asked, where do we want to be? And overwhelmingly, that was beyond ourselves, right? We want to give back. We want to do more. And I think that's going to be really interesting how we all work together to do that. We'll be able to align, I hope.
I feel like it's already happening, honestly. So, I mean, you kind of described, so Edward and I are in appointed positions because we work with the program office. And so we've been in our position since September. And like, I was feeling quite a lot of pressure to have, events all the time and like, bring in speakers and, make sure that we're engaging every single person on all of their career interests, which is like very broad. And so it's actually been amazing just in the past couple weeks since all of the other positions have been elected, how people are already setting stuff up. Like, I think just this block, like last night, there were like 4 different events. Like tonight, there's an alumni dinner. Tomorrow, there's a fireside chat. Like all these other VPs are just coming in and like adding to what we're already doing. And it makes me feel like we're accomplishing like the whole goal, or really meeting everyone's needs with this like little army we have behind us now.
Yeah,
which is great.
I would echo that. Like we felt like, we had to try to do everything that might be related to careers and career development. But I mean, there's a VC talk that a couple others, a VP of entrepreneurship, and along with Robin, helped organize the guest to come in today, philanthropy.
Yes,
a couple different things that it's like these are really interesting talks that take a network to build, and it's not just us, and it feels really empowering that we don't have to do it ourselves. Do you want to talk about CMG a little bit and like how we support Kim?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I guess with the positions that are appointed, they kind of like align with with the office within Berkeley Haas staff. So we work directly with the career management group, and they have kind of like a wealth of knowledge. They've been, working with MBAs for quite a while. So they have a lot of great ideas of how to, plug us into what's already existing, events that have been great in the past that we're going to hopefully continue to move forward. But one of like the pillars of what CMG does is like career coaching. And so Edward and I are going to participate in that, I think, here shortly, but a lot of people have already started doing that. Last block, we brought the career coaches in to like talk with all of the MBAs during lunch. And so it's just, I think, a great office and resource that we're facilitating that relationship with. I guess, how are we supporting Kim? Or what was, I think, was the second part of the question?
Yeah, in general, there's a lot of interest in career development. We did a survey before it was popular, and got a lot of response, and there seems to be a lot of interest in entrepreneurship, in a pivot sometime during the MBA, where a lot of our fellow students just want to find something next, whatever that looks like, entrepreneurship or just moving up the corporate ladder. A lot of it's career coaching, but there's so many opportunities that you only find out serendipitously, where you see it in a Slack message or something, and trying to illuminate all those opportunities for people to take advantage of. I think that's kind of my aim.
And I have done the career coaching. So as MBAs, we do get, I think, unlimited career coaching for life.
I think it's like 4 executive coaching sessions
5,
total, something like that. Yeah.
So I've done one of each, and I thought both were surprisingly great. I think you can direct these career coaching sessions to be what you want them to be. Like, hey, I struggle talking about my impact and what I want to do in an organization, or I just need to refresh my resume. Whatever those needs are, I think they're able to help you through that journey, and even identifying roles. I forget if it was Julene or Ed, you mentioned a pivot, right? That is changing a role. They also talk about double pivots, changing from role and industry. So the career coaches can help you with all that. And then I understood that the executive coaches can really help you hone in on any specific issues or specific things you want to work through. Like, hey, I want to develop this skill set, or hey, I want to interact with a colleague in this way. How do I go about this? And just giving you these ideas for how to show up as your best self. I know that sounds a little bit fluffy, but after having this talk with the executive coach, I was like, yes, I'm ready to have these conversations and go forth. Yeah.
Let's switch to what you do for work and those conversations, or how it's helped in work. What do you do today, and what does your company do?
So I lead business operations for a small biotech based in Seattle. We're translational oncology focused. Unfortunately, there's not like an elevator pitch for what we do, but essentially answering the question, like if you had a cancer drug, and it hit tumor tissue, our company is all about telling you what's happening there. Is it killing cancer cells? Is it doing nothing to those cancer cells? So the idea is you could test drugs or a combination of drugs understand what's going on, and then know whether to move those forward in later stage clinical trials or to make a stop decision, or maybe to inform like combinations, like, hey, this drug alone didn't work, but with another drug, it could. So our whole piece is data. What can you do so that patients aren't getting drugs that do nothing for their cancers, right? So we're very early stage. We're really small. I've been there 11 and a half years.
Wow.
Yep. I like to say I grew up there. I got married while I was there, had my kids while I was there. But I started as the most entry-level administrative person. I pivoted within the company to work on our clinical trials and help build our clinical network for a time, and then switched back into a leadership role to be our VP of business operations.
You said it's basically everything outside of the lab itself, right?
Yes, at a small company, you wear many hats. I wear all of them that are not clinical or R&D. So HR, accounting, finance, payroll, just all the things get thrown my way. And I would say I've had great support from colleagues to really learn what could be effective for them. And yeah, all the hats I wear, will empty the dishwasher 1 minute and then, present financials to the board the next. So it really depends on what the day brings.
We're going to pile more onto this. You don't live in Seattle.
I don't.
Can you talk about your commute, your regular commute?
Yes. So for work, I live in just outside of Dallas, Texas area. For work, I come into the Seattle office about 1 week a month. And then for block weekends, it's about 1 weekend a month. I try to not connect them. I wanted to, but it's too tiring to be on at work where I normally just work from home, and then to come here where the mornings are early, the nights are late. So, but the commute though, I actually really like, because coming to school, especially, it's my brain turns on to be a student, and then I'm here and I'm on. And then I get back on the plane and I come down, I calm down, and then I go back to life and see my kids. And
I didn't realize, I knew you lived in Texas. I didn't realize you commuted to Seattle, though, for work. Are you guys in Texas because your husband is working there?
Yep. We moved May 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. It's actually a great time to move because the plane was half empty, everybody was masked. And then we moved from Seattle, which was a little bit more restrictive, to Dallas, and it felt in a way that there wasn't a pandemic going on. People were eating in restaurants. People were going about their lives. It was very interesting. But we moved because he started his residency program, but now he's working at UT Southwestern down there.
I am like more and more amazed. Like every time I hear more, I'm like, you have 2 children, you're VP at a growing company. Like your husband is in residency. You're traveling to the Bay Area all the time. You're president of our class now. I'm sure I know you bake cookies. You probably have some other amazing hobbies. Like, yeah, how are you balancing all of this stuff?
Well, the thing I say that people really don't like it when I say it is like the buffet analogy. Like if your plate's full, you just get a bigger plate, which I know doesn't work forever. But
yeah, for sure.
Anytime someone's like, you have a lot going on, I just say I like a lot going on. I think my brain works moving from one thing to the next pretty efficiently for now. And then I like it. I don't feel drained when I come for block or when I go to work. I feel like I'm not a huge extrovert, but I do get energy from people and experiences, so it keeps me going.
I remember when we were at the leadership symposium, they had us do this thing where we would pick like this or that and then go to either side of the room, and one of the things was like, do you like dedicated time for work, or do you like kind of like switching constantly between things? And I hadn't really thought about that before, but I actually do like switching as well, because it's like, if I get stuck on one thing, go to the next. And so it seems like you're probably the same, where you're just like, let's keep going from thing to thing.
You kind of have to. And then get your downtime in the evenings. We're watching Suits right now.
I heard it's good. It's on my list in the queue.
Now, you weren't from Texas. You weren't from Seattle.
Right.
You went to Berkeley undergrad.
I did.
Let's dial it back. Talk about early life, however far back you want, and leading up to the start of your career.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Southern California. It's a suburb of LA, Diamond Bar, if you've ever heard of it. Many people haven't.
Sounds fun. Diamond Bar.
Yeah. Very suburban, probably many Asian students in my school. I think we sent 50 people to Berkeley that year. I didn't want to go originally because my sister went, and I was like, I don't want to go where she went. But I got sold when I went to orientation and just enjoyed the campus atmosphere and that we had a football team. We had a good football team when I started. We're going to get back there soon. But yeah, I didn't know what it would be like to live away from home. I remember little things like flying home every couple months with a suitcase full of laundry because I didn't want to drag mine down and use the corridors in the dorms. But I'm a double bear. That's what they call people who went to Cal for another degree, either undergrad or a master's PhD. And the decision to come here was in part motivated by like the great experience I had as an undergrad. After I graduated,
Sorry to interrupt. No, you also, when you were at Cal, you did like the student orientation. You were like a student orientation leader.
I was. Yes.
Which you shared at like LeadCom earlier on and taught us like all the...
Chants.
No, the dance. What's the dance called? But everyone at Cal does this, yeah.
Well... So it used to be called CALSO, Cal Student Orientation, and we would orient. It was an overnight stay for all incoming new freshmen and transfers, and we'd have groups, and we'd teach them all the time warp from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Right. And as like the finale, everybody would do the time warp. It was very exciting. At our first immersion for EMBA, Leadership Communications, we taught everybody the time warp as a nice tradition. I actually don't know if they still do it, and they don't call it CALSO anymore. So it's some other group that does orientation. Yeah.
But you were like, I mean, so I had some orientation at my undergrad, and so I feel like the people who led the orientations were like very, excited about the university, and so it seemed like maybe from like early on you kind of like bought into Cal, and you were like, all right, I like it here.
I think so. That was one of the best things I've done, the Cal Student Orientation Program. It was maybe 30, 40 of us, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's a small group of people,
small group of people, but we're all like exhausted. I mean, as tiring as this is, that was way more. And then you're with group after group of people. You're on when you're on. You don't want to like point them to the wrong resources around the campus, giving tours. It was great, and I learned a lot about the history of the school. Then I was an RA, so I was involved in that way too. Wow. Yes, I did that for a little bit. Then I spent a year abroad, so I was gone for all of junior year.
Oh, where'd you go?
I did a semester in Moscow, Russia.
Oh.
And I did a semester at sea.
Cool.
Tell me how many countries you visited again?
I think it's like 86.
It's insane.
Is my count. Well, so after graduating, I worked in management consulting for a couple years, and then I took 18 months to travel by myself.
Awesome.
Now, your LeadCom presentation was about a passion for travel and a passion for connection.
Yes.
Can you talk about how that started and why do you think it's so important to you?
Oh, well, I kind of direct from my LeadCom story. When I was young, my mom probably was in her 30s, and she found out that she was adopted. She got a letter in the mail that was like, "Hi, we're your family. We've been looking for you," and she had no idea. From Indonesia. Yeah. Yes, so I'm Indonesian, Dutch, and Chinese. My mom had no idea she was actually full Chinese. She thought she was a mix from her adopted parents. But we got this letter in the mail. We flew to Indonesia. I think I was maybe 8 or so. Yeah.
How were you convinced it was not a scam or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. My parents absolutely thought it was a scam. Like, people from Indonesia trying to get money from us. But when we landed, my mom's brother looked exactly like her, right? Wow. And it was just this new family we found, because we didn't have any family in Southern California. I always felt like we were like the odd ducks out when we'd go to these like Thanksgiving gatherings or Christmas gatherings. You know, they were lovely people, just not our family. But being there, that was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be connected with people who I've never met before, but suddenly have a way to bond with them. And like leaving, I remember even as a kid, I was like in tears, like bawling, like so sad to leave. And I realized it was just that connection piece. And that's what makes like cities come alive for me when I'm traveling. It's who am I meeting, talking to a girl as a bus is stopped in the middle of the night in Argentina, and we connected for a few minutes, and then I went and visited her in Israel. Like, just these sort of connections happen fast. In the program, we talk about being deep and brief. They're deep, they're brief, and then it's like a forever friend. Like, hey, I happen to be in Perth in Australia. We haven't seen each other since we met 8 years ago. Can I come visit you? You know, and yes, the answer is always yes. And I feel the same way for anyone who's come into the States, although people don't tend to want to come to Dallas. So.
I heard real estate's booming over there.
That's true. The barbecue's good.
What, I mean, it might be hard to answer this because connection is the reason to travel, but if you could pick a favorite destination.
For the food and the culture, Japan. I had a really amazing time in Australia because parts of it were beautiful, like diving the Great Barrier Reef, right? Incredible, the Whitsundays. But also I had made a number of friends in the earlier part of my trip that I could then just go visit them. So it almost felt like just coming home to a city I knew already. I think I have probably my favorites per continent.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I'm actually going to Australia for GNAM in June.
Yes.
You're going to Mexico City.
I am.
And Julian, you're going to Switzerland,
Switzerland,
right?
Usain.
Are you guys excited for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I was thinking when Kim was like kind of talking about connection and traveling, like, I mean, we both have a military background, but also like that's something that I find so interesting too. Or like when I was on active duty, even being in like Qatar or like Kuwait, you like meet people and you're just like, wow, we have this like one thing in common. I don't know. I feel like it's like the world is, you know,
kind of small.
It's kind of small, but I feel like there's sort of like this demystifying thing where when you travel and you go there and you actually like talk to people, you're like, wow, we have, you know, one thing in common or 10 things in common. And it just like makes it feel, you know, so much more like welcoming. And you're like, oh, I've never been to like the Middle East or Africa or wherever it might be. And it seems like this, you know, foreign thing in your mind. But that when you go and you like get to connect with people, it just like makes you even more curious and excited to like go there. And I'm excited for GNAM. I'm going to be in Europe for like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 weeks or so. I'm going to add on a work trip with it and go to Berlin and maybe Italy for a little bit. So yeah, I didn't know you were also such a active traveler. So that's cool. I want to hear more stories. We got a little derailed. Like we were going in Kim's professional history, starting at undergrad.
Travel was on the agenda.
I mean, maybe we can just like circle back. Circle back.
After 18 months of travel, I don't imagine you did 86 countries in that time, but you did a bulk of it then.
I did.
And then you came back to real life.
I did.
What was that like, and how did you decide what to do?
My now husband and I stayed together the whole time I was traveling, and I moved in with him. I, by design, had 3 figures in my bank account when I came back. And
very good planning.
Yeah.
By design.
By design. And we moved in together, and I started applying for jobs in Seattle. At the time, I was really open. So I'm in the biotech space now, but I didn't intend to necessarily be there. I think it was in the end between a finance job and this biotech job, and I got the offer first for Presage, and it's been, I think the key thing I know is I'm a student always, because everything has been a learning experience there, and getting to learn it in a very like fast-paced way. Like if we had to have layoffs, understanding what that meant and taking on a couple more hats, or just myself taking on coursework in finance and accounting because I felt we might have a gap now if we don't have direct personnel and we're working a lot with consultants or things like that. So I fell into biotech pharma, but I really like it because it's mission driven, right? At the end of the day, what we want is to better the lives of patients with cancer. And that resonates with me. I don't necessarily have a personal connection to it or a story, but that idea of being able to help is what keeps me there. I mean, I love the mission. I love my colleagues. I think many of us have been there over 10 years, right? And there are people who I've seen grow just the same way I have into these positions of leadership, positions where we're presenting to partners, and it's really cool to see. It's I think I would say, like, people ask me when we do our hiring process, why do you stay? And I'm like, well, it's the people. Also, I believe in what we're doing, so that's a nice thing to have both.
To maybe a younger version of Kim that's just getting started or trying to choose a career or really wants to get into research or something, right? Yeah. What do you think was a trait of yours, or just a general tip for a younger version of yourself, like that if you could go back in time and reach back?
I think I've never gotten a job where I wrote a cover letter. So the thing that I'm realizing even more now is how important a connection or a network is, and being more than just a name on a paper. It matters when you reach out to someone directly. It matters when someone can speak on your behalf. It matters that you've tailored your resume to that job, because now, especially with LinkedIn, like easy apply, right? They're not reading 1,000 resumes. No way. I think for one of our jobs posted, this is years ago, we had like 200 applicants. And I was like, I'm not reading all 200 applicants. We can't. So my advice would be
data for that now.
Yeah.
There's software.
But now it's to emphasize those connections and try to find the in that way. So I happen to get this job because my husband worked in the lab of the founder of the company. And I didn't know anything about biotech. I would also say to young me, think about your worth and what you bring to the table and what that means in terms of a job negotiation, what that means in terms of presenting your skill set and talking about it in a way that shows you've thought about it, not just kind of being glib about, oh, I really want to work hard and I want to, I have energy, which are things I feel like I have and I do, but that's not the way I would talk about myself now. And that's maybe by nature of how the job has changed for me. But I think those kinds of things, emphasize the connection, get your personal in, and talk about what you bring to the table, which I probably didn't do as good a job of before.
Well, when you're young, there's only so much you bring to the table, I think.
Maturity.
So I'm in some of these entrepreneurial programs, startup incubator type of things on campus. And some of these kids are like 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so impressed, so articulate, so focused. I'm like, wow, what was I doing? I couldn't do that when I was 20 years old.
Right.
So you're probably better than you think.
Not at the time. Let's maybe switch to now you're at MBA, you're in the MBA program.
Yeah.
You're not just the president, you're also participating in STEP. Maybe talk about that process and your team and what your hopes are.
Yeah. I'm failing because I don't know exactly what STEP stands for. I want to say Startup Entrepreneurship Program. Yeah. Well, they have a fall and spring cohort that you can apply to. So either you as a founder can pitch your idea. You have sort of a problem statement, a solution, and team members that you're looking for. Or you can apply as like a free agent and just say, I'd like to join a team. Here are some of my skill sets. I did the latter. And mostly because I just wanted to learn about the process, learn about what resources are available. There's actually a lot of entrepreneurship programs here. I-Core, STEP, Big
UC
Leap.
Launch.
UC Launch, Skydeck, yeah. So there's a ton, and they all offer different things and require different types of commitments. So I joined a team called Pursuit AI. It's an AI concept associated with sort of careers and alumni. So it's actually something I really want to talk to you both about.
Yeah, great.
It was started by an EMBA 24 and his wife, actually. So they did I-Core. They did a lot of the market segment targeting and, product market fit research to understand, is there something here? And a prototype is in the works, and we'll go through the STEP process to see what we have, what else we can do with this idea. It's me and another one of our colleagues who I think you interviewed on the podcast, Chrissy, who's part of the team. So we're going to be a pretty small team. We have a few of us on other STEP teams. There's one idea about retail in the adolescent space. There's an idea in the real estate, general contracting space. I mean, there's so many.
How many teams from our program are participating in STEP?
I
It's
think
like 4?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That is a
Yeah,
lot.
because you did it last spring or for last fall.
Yeah.
So I think, and you actually won, right?
We placed, but then we applied for a grant or something. I forget what they called it, but we got $5,000 to go to the next step.
Yeah.
And then we took the idea and pitched it to Big Ideas, which is another program where there's a larger financial reward at the end, depending on how well you do. So we just did our kickoff yesterday, and it's pretty serious. Like, there are some really good ideas in there, and some of the guys are really far along. And I think some of the statistics, it's like 28 teams, 20 of them are female-led, and most of those are female issue related. Like, they're driving forward something, either sustainability, women's issues, financial inclusion. That's kind of the theme of Big Ideas. And we submitted a 4-page application, and they accepted us for the final round, I guess. So that's pretty exciting. And it's kind of like, oh, there's something after STEP, because I'm actually surprised that your team members did I-Core first. I think I-Core is typically a little more involved.
A couple people in our cohort did I-Core first as well. And then I-Core recommended they do STEP.
Okay.
Because, so what I was hearing is if I-Core is focused on product market fit and getting those customer interviews in an unbiased fashion, then STEP would be the next.
Yeah. I imagine what they're going to have you do in the next 2 months is focus on traction and pitching, hey, look at this progress we've made in a prototype, or demonstrating willingness to pay or something, something in terms of like a letter of intent or even a signed contract or something. I think that's kind of the next step after customer discovery. But enough of that.
Well, I guess maybe with that was like entrepreneurship or STEP one of the reasons you wanted to do the executive program, or what were your reasons for?
Not at all.
What were your reasons for coming here?
For me, I was relatively new to my leadership role.
In your company?
In my company, yes. So I'd been there a while, but I had not been a company leader until a few years ago now. And I felt like there were skill sets I didn't have. So something I've told people, I feel like my knowledge is a mile wide, inch deep. And because of all the hats I wear, and I wanted a little bit of depth and breadth in certain subject areas. So that's been great. But also I wanted to expand my network and understand what it would mean to have the Berkeley Haas network in my corner. And that's been a really, really cool part of this process, just connecting with other MBAs. There's the full-time, evening, weekend, and executive MBAs, right? The MBAs, they all really like each other, and they're all really excited to talk to each other about their ideas, about their past, about their experiences. They seem to be willing to give and pay forward, so that's been really great. I didn't think I wanted to do anything entrepreneurial. We just heard from a speaker who said, I don't want to be a founder. And
but on the slide above her, it literally said like founder.
Yeah. And I think that changes. Like I just thought I would get some skills, build a network, and hopefully be eligible for promotion from within my company. Now, joining things like STEP, learning more about other entrepreneurial opportunities, what that even means, how you get started. It's exciting, and it's exciting just to talk to people about their ideas, have that test bed of, what do you think of this? Let me actually talk to somebody who's done that role, or somebody who knows about logistics or supply chain or any of these areas. Like the subject matter experts are in the room. So that has been really cool. So I didn't think I would want to do anything entrepreneurial.
I feel honestly kind of the same way. I'm remembering back to when Ed interviewed me just a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, I'm here because I want to round out my skill set. I like my company. I like my growth trajectory. But yeah, now I'm like, man, should I do like marketing? And I do nothing to do with, marketing, or it's like every course we take, I'm like, wow, this is like so interesting. And, I'm really enjoying it, but it's opening up like my perspective a lot as well in like ways that I did not anticipate.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of it though. It's this beautiful experience where you get to make what you want of it. And so far, I just want to explore everything.
Yeah, just keep going. Like, let's do this forever. Maybe not forever.
I had a kind of a weird question. Well, not a weird question, but a little more specifically, when you, like a lot of people have said this, I felt like I was missing a certain set of skills, and that's why I decided to to get an MBA. Was it finance? Was it managerial? What was it specifically you thought, man, I need to improve?
I think that answer changed now that I've gone through. We're about a third of the way through the program.
All of
it. So before I would have said like, I present our cash runway and things to the board. It would be nice to have more of a foundation there, or I help with our BD pitches and do our marketing. Be really nice to have some theory and foundational knowledge around there. So
best practices.
Yeah, I think that's where it started. But after leadership communication, so one of the exercises they had us do is, if you wanted to, write a letter to yourself, your family. And the letter is basically, I got my A because, and you fill in with as much detail. And I think they even offered to send it to you in a year to say, what did you get your A for? And for me, I wrote it to my boss at the time, because one of the things he always said was, in group settings, it's very safe and easy to ask questions rather than to give your opinion and be more of a force and presence in a room. So I think it sort of evolved for me to be more of that leader. And it goes along with the DLP, right? Confidence without attitude. And I think just in these last
6 months.
Yeah, I think my confidence has grown tremendously. I think my leadership skills, like practicing those with other student leaders, practicing them with people who have very strong opinions about how things should or should not be, has been just so enriching in a way I never expected that I would benefit that way from the program. So it's this like confidence boost, this leadership boost, like, oh, that's what it means to show up and be a leader and pay attention to what has heart and meaning and all that stuff. And so something that's been coming to me, which I said at an admissions event, well, I maybe grew up at my company in terms of getting married, raising my kids. I mean, my daughter's 10 months, but here is where I blossomed and became more of the leader and the student, the person I feel like I was meant to be. So it's changed. If before, yes, subject matter, depth and breadth, now it's just more about leadership and impact. And
I identify with that. Evidently I'm asking questions to people and not talking so much about myself. So to stand up in a room and like just be a force, I feel like that's something I'm actively working on as well. With that, we're at 48 minutes or something on this interview. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll close it out.
How pleasant.